This video right here, I'm going to be discussing Ring of Honor losing another top star to WWE and Nigel McGuinness signing to WWE this past Friday. Two TNA releases, WWE changing one of their names for one of their pay-per-views later on this year, changed to another gimmick-based pay-per-view, and a little update on Mr. Kennedy. So first I want to get on to my thoughts on Nigel McGuinness getting signed to WWE and no longer being within Ring of Honor now. This is a huge loss for Ring of Honor. They've lost Nigel McGuinness and Bryan Danielson. They're two of their top, main event talents within their organization within a span of less than 2 weeks, pretty much, or a span of 2 weeks at best. And this is a huge blow to Ring of Honor, losing these two guys. Now, Ring of Honor, they can really, do a good job of building up talent. That's the one good thing that Ring of Honor does, other than WWE and TNA for the most part. They do know how to build up, new talent, because, Tyler Black, he can fill the role of Bryan Danielson, I guess, but can he get to the level of being as over as Bryan Danielson is, as far as pretty much being the face of the organization? Because that's pretty much what Bryan Danielson was over the years. And Nigel McGuinness, I guess, back in 2003-04, when I first saw him within Ring of Honor, I was like, okay, he seems like he's pretty good. Then he started really developing as a wrestler during his pure title reign in 2005 after defeating Samoa Joe in August of 2005. Held that title for about a year, then lost it, kind of in a unification match against Bryan Danielson over the United Kingdom. And then Bryan Danielson and Nigel McGuinness against each other put on some of the greatest matches in Ring of Honor history. And probably them two right there, their feud with each other is probably the best wrestling matches within Ring of Honor's history right there, them two. And huge blow to Ring of Honor right here. Now, is this signaling the end of Ring of Honor? No, it's not signaling the end of Ring of Honor, but Ring of Honor is going to, be sorely hurt by this, with Bryan Danielson leaving for WWE and Nigel McGuinness leaving for WWE. Now, the one thing is, I think Danielson, like I've stated in my last video, I think Danielson actually will fit well in WWE, mainly just due to the fact that he has, some guys backing him that will really help him out. William Regal, Jim Ross, and Shawn Michaels. Nigel McGuinness, I think out of Nigel McGuinness and Bryan Danielson, I think Nigel McGuinness will be the more successful of the two within WWE, just because Nigel McGuinness pretty much has what WWE wants, and I think WWE would actually utilize and push Nigel McGuinness. Bryan Danielson, I think they might, but I will not be shocked if Bryan Danielson is underutilized in WWE. Now, Nigel McGuinness, I think, WWE would use him real well, mainly due to the fact, he's great on the mic. He really can, go back with the crowd real well. He's a great heel. He's a pretty good face as well, works better as a heel, and he's a good in-ring worker. Now, the one thing that does kind of hurt him probably for WWE a little bit is right now this is kind of a questionable time for WWE signing him. Some people have brought this up as well, that this is kind of a questionable time for signing him, since he's kind of been a little injury prone of lately, and pretty much ever since he lost the title to Jerry Lynn back at Supercard of Honor 4, he really hasn't done much within wrestling in general. So the one thing is, obviously within WWE, he's going to have to tone down his style within the ring, as far as how hard and how many uppercuts, European uppercuts, and lariats and all that. He's going to definitely have to tone down his in-ring style. That's the one thing Nigel will have to tone. He'll have to tone down his style to a little degree for WWE, and I obviously know WWE is going to do that. But I think he'll have success within WWE, and wish him the best with WWE. But this, I'm not going to lie, this is a huge loss for Ring of Honor. Nigel McGuinness and Bryan Danielson within a span of 2 weeks now. His last match in Ring of Honor is going to be the same show that Danielson is having his last match, which is the New York show on September 26th. So pretty much anyone within the New York area, if you are in the New York area, you need to go to that show. I mean, if I was not down in Virginia, I could actually get up to New York for that weekend. I would, wish I could, because that looks like it's going to be one of Ring of Honor's, one of their greatest shows as far as card-wise. It looks very good, and plus you got, Danielson's farewell with Austin Aries. Will they do a type of swerve like they did with CM Punk winning the title back in 05 at Death Before Dishonor 3, with Danielson going over and maybe doing what he did over in PWG recently, just vacating the title, then maybe having a tournament for the title? Guess we'll just have to wait and see, because that's the one thing, obviously everyone within that match, Aries and Danielson, everyone's obviously expecting Aries to walk out as champion. So that's the one thing. People will be shocked that Danielson goes over. Got Ladder War 2. You got Nigel McGuinness and Roderick Strong. You got the Briscoes and the Young Bucks, and you got even a couple other matches as well. So it's definitely looking like a very impressive card for that show. So it's definitely going to be probably one of Ring of Honor's most emotional shows as well. And Ladder War 2 should be excellent. It's going to be hard to top the first one, but I think it's still going to be excellent. But it's definitely, I don't know if it's going to be as good as the first one. That's going to be really, really hard to top. Next thing I want to discuss is Angelina Love getting released from TNA. Now, she's got released due to a work visa issue within TNA, and apparently she's been working in TNA for a long time without a work visa, so she could get some penalties from this in TNA as well. As she could get as much as not be able to work in the United States or come to the United States for 10 years. And TNA obviously is going to get probably some legal problems out of this as well, unless they can throw some money at it and kind of keep it hush-hush and don't have it really go anywhere. Now, today, Angelina Love's agent did talk about this, and kind of like within it, I took it as, within what her agent was saying, was kind of sugarcoating a few things. Pretty much the agent said, there's not going to be any issue here and she should be back within TNA in no time, which I'm hoping is actually going to happen. Now, Angelina Love isn't the greatest in-ring performer. I'm not going to say that, but she is a big part of the TNA Knockouts division. She's definitely improved within the ring, and her character is very, very good as well. And the whole thing with the beautiful people, if you don't have Angelina Love there anymore, that's really going to hurt that thing for the TNA Knockouts division, the whole thing with the beautiful people, because Velvet Sky and Madison Rayne as a group will not cut it. Velvet Sky and Angelina Love, work out a whole lot better. So it's definitely a loss for TNA's Knockouts division. Hopefully she gets her work visa issues settled, and hopefully she doesn't get any punishment from this. Hopefully she doesn't have to. Hopefully there's no problem with this and it can get settled very quickly, but we'll have to wait and see. Another TNA employee, I'm calling it an employee because I can't call her a worker, and that's Jenna Maraska has been released from TNA or fired from TNA. Thankfully this happened. Good riddance. I can't really say I don't think anyone's sad to see her gone from TNA. TNA was stupid as hell for even thinking about signing her, and probably even the very few times she was within TNA and the one match she did against Sharmell, I don't want to even imagine how much money TNA wasted on her just for that, pretty much that 1 month she was there. A couple appearances on Impact and that match at Victory Road 2009. I don't want to even imagine how much money TNA's probably wasted right there just with that, which TNA is really dumb for even trying to get her. Go back to your reality shows. I don't want to ever see you in a wrestling ring ever again. I think everyone will say the same thing. The other thing I want to discuss is WWE changing a name for one of their pay-per-views. WWE's been kind of doing this a lot this year with the upcoming pay-per-view this Sunday, Breaking Point, formerly the Unforgiven pay-per-view. They dropped Cyber Sunday, I think, or they went back and forth, maybe calling it bragging rights. Dropped No Mercy, now it's Hell in a Cell, and then they've dropped one of their pay-per-views they've been having for a long time, since 1999, the Armageddon pay-per-view. And now this is going to be another gimmick-based pay-per-view, and what this gimmick-based pay-per-view is going to be the TLC, is going to be called TLC Tables, Ladders, and Chairs. Now, this idea for a TLC-themed event, I think, is going to completely fail. I've kind of given my thoughts on this already, but just to throw it out again, this idea of a TLC-themed event will not be a good thing at all. It's just going to make the meaning of a TLC match not mean anything. If you got 2 or 3 of them on one pay-per-view, it's not going to. It's the importance of the match isn't going to be there, and even if you build up 2 of them very good, it's going to be like, oh, I just saw one of them earlier, I'm going to see the same exact thing. You only do like one of those matches per show. Don't do them multiple times. And the other thing that kind of hurts it already is, okay, you've had the Money in the Bank ladder match. You had that at WrestleMania. You had the Jeff Hardy and Edge ladder match. You had the TLC match with CM Punk and Jeff Hardy. So you already had 3 matches that are qualified as ladder-type matches. 2 the Money in the Bank match, the ladder match, and the TLC match, all, the same thing, all ladder matches. And, you've already had 3 right there, so the importance of the match, you've seen it already enough this year, just like the Hell in the Cell pay-per-view. This is just over gimmicky. I don't think it's going to work. Even if they put some, people in there that could pull it off, I think, I think the way it's going to be is you might see one of them might be good, but the other one, since you had one earlier in the show or you have multiple ones on there, it's just going to, the importance of it is going to be taken away. So WWE's very idiotic for doing this, and WWE thinks that, having a gimmick-based pay-per-view is going to help out, attendance for the pay-per-view or help out pay-per-view buy rates. That's the thing that's not going to help it. TNA, has done the same thing, thinking that if you keep throwing all these gimmick-type matches on pay-per-view, that people will be more interested in it because, oh, it's, a ladder match, it's a street fight. Every single match is, gimmicks, hardcore, and all that. That's not going to increase pay-per-view buy rates. You're going to have, very good solid booking, and you're going to have to make most of the matches seem like they're actually worthy of people paying $40 for a pay-per-view. People aren't going to, say, just because you got 2 ladder matches on a show are going to, shell out $40 for it. And like I said, the importance of the match is going to be taken away. Now, a little update on Mr. Kennedy, Ken Anderson. He's going to be having his WWE non-compete clause ending this Wednesday, September 9th. And after that, he can sign with any organization he wants to. Obviously, he'll be signing within TNA, even though that's not official yet. I'm pretty sure everyone already knows that's going to happen. Even though he hasn't signed it quite yet, he's obviously going to be signing with TNA. And since TNA's got a pay-per-view, the No Surrender pay-per-view coming up on not this coming Sunday, but the following Sunday, September 20th. Don't know, maybe you'll see an appearance of Mr. Kennedy there, or Ken Anderson, or Mr. Anderson, whatever name he's going to go under within TNA. So just want to throw a little update of that as well. So just wanted to come on here and give my thoughts on Nigel going to WWE. It's definitely a loss for Ring of Honor, especially since the last 2 weeks they've lost their 2 big talents. The one thing I'm wondering is Ring of Honor, are they going to lose any other top stars? WWE has been interested in Delirious and Claudio Castagnoli. I'm not sure if either one of them are going to get signed to WWE, but I definitely do not think WWE is only going to stop at 2 talents. I think there's other stars within Ring of Honor that WWE might be interested in, a Delirious or a Claudio Castagnoli, especially Delirious, because I think his type of gimmick could get over and would sell a lot of merchandise for kids. I think it would work within WWE. They might change it a little bit, but I think it's the type of gimmick that would work in WWE. Claudio, because of his size, I would think he would work, but he's had a developmental deal with WWE before, and that fell apart. I think there was some issue with him as well, kind of like Angelina Love, a work visa issue or something like that stopped him from being able to stay within WWE and having anything really happen with his developmental deal. So it's going to be interesting, to see what happens next with Ring of Honor. Like I said, this isn't the death of Ring of Honor, but it's definitely 2 major losses for Ring of Honor. Them losing Danielson and McGuinness. They're 2 of their, main stars within Ring of Honor over the years, especially Danielson since the first show. And McGuinness has really, over the last couple years, has really developed into a great star. It probably is, Danielson's the, the better technically gifted wrestler, but I think overall for WWE's eyes, I think Nigel will be the one that, I think if there's one of them I don't really have to worry about WWE not utilizing, I think it's going to be Nigel McGuinness, just because, he has the size, he has a pretty good look, I think WWE type look, and, he'll have to tone down his in-ring style. That's probably the only, disadvantage that is going to be happening with him. He's going to have to tone down his style, but that's about it. So, yeah, that's it for this video. Peace. On Nigel McGuinness getting signed to WWE and no longer being within Ring of Honor. Now, this is a huge loss for Ring of Honor. They've lost Nigel McGuinness and Bryan Danielson. They're 2 of their top, main event talents within their organization within a span of less than 2 weeks, pretty much, or a span of 2 weeks at best. And this is a huge blow to Ring of Honor, losing these 2 guys. Now, Ring of Honor, they can really, do a good job of building up talent. That's the one good thing that Ring of Honor does, other than WWE and TNA for the most part. They do know how to build up, new talent, because, Tyler Black, he can fill the role of Bryan Danielson, I guess, but can he get to the level of being as... This video right here, I'm going to be discussing Ring of Honor losing another top star to WWE and Nigel McGuinness signing to WWE this past Friday. 2 TNA releases, WWE changing one of their names for one of their pay-per-views later on this year, changed to another gimmick-based pay-per-view, and a little update on Mr. Kennedy. So first I want to get on to my thoughts over as Bryan Danielson is, as far as pretty much being the face of the organization, because that's pretty much what Bryan Danielson was over the years. And Nigel McGuinness, I guess, you know, back in 2003-04, when I first saw him within Ring of Honor, I was like, okay, he seems like he's pretty good. Then he started really developing as a wrestler during his pure title reign in 2005 after defeating Samoa Joe in August of 2005. Held that title for about a year, then lost it, well, kind of in a unification match against Bryan Danielson over the United Kingdom. And then Bryan Danielson and Nigel McGuinness against each other put on some of the greatest matches in Ring of Honor history, and probably them two